everyone. I just wanted to welcome you to DAB's second Skill Builder series event. This week we partnered with the Career Center. So we're very fortunate to have partnered with the Career Center to help make this event possible. And we just wanted to create a positive experience for students during this time. And I just want to start off by doing a brief so I'll give everyone like 1 to 2 minutes. You can go off camera if you'd like, but just try to find something that either you're passionate about or maybe a little object that shows one of your hobbies or something that you enjoy doing or that you've been doing during this time. It could be like a little item or anything you find, I guess. So I'll give everyone like 1 to 2 minutes to go find something, or maybe you have something nearby.
And to those that are joining us on Facebook, feel free to participate. Add in the comments like what item you picked out and let's share the story there.
All right, is everyone ready? If you don't want to share, no worries, you don't have to. But if you'd like to share, you're more than welcome to. But would anyone like to get started? If not, I can start.
First. So
okay.
I picked up this little like handmade Mexican doll. So I have family from Mexico, and heritage and culture are a big part of like my day to day. I take a lot of pride in my upbringing, and so I think that this symbolizes not only like a little bit about me, but I see a lot of my motivation coming from like my family and their values, and so that's why I picked this little doll.
Awesome. So I grabbed my AirPods. These are just like something that I use like every day. Just like listening to music kind of helps me relax and stay focused, especially during these times. But I pretty much use them every day, either when I'm working out or just relaxing, even sometimes doing homework. But yeah, it just kind of helps me stay relaxed.
One of my things that I'm passionate about is like outer space and like weird UFO sightings. I like that kind of stuff, and I've had the opportunity to work with NASA, which I really have appreciated. So
that's awesome.
Going off of what Josh is saying, behind me is my record player I just bought recently, and I've been listening to all my parents' old like vinyls, and it's just like calming and just getting into like new music that I really haven't like really listened to, so it's really nice.
Yeah, I grabbed a couple books off the bookshelf right here. I'm big on always educating yourself and educating others, so big reader. That's what I went with.
For me, they actually have a class where I have to pick up a new activity. So I've been doing like jewelry making and doing like fire wrapping stuff. So it's actually a lot of fun, which I didn't think, I don't know, I think it's fun. I've been doing that during this whole time.
That's awesome. If anyone else would like to share, if not, we'll go and get started with our presentation from the Career Center.
All right, are you guys ready? Okay, all right, so I'm gonna share my screen because I wanna walk through some of the services and resources that have shifted a little bit, and then I'll go into the presentation content. Two of the things I'll be toggling back and forth between our presentation on how to have a fulfilling summer that bridges to a career. And that's for anyone who wants to really build skills and take advantage of the summer for career purposes when you're not interning. I'll also go through our job search tips for job searching during a pandemic, which I think correlate with internship search during a pandemic as well. But feel free to throw questions in the chat as we go, because I can be responsive to those. And I have no problem with anyone turning their mute off and interrupting with a question. Like, this should be really organic, and I want to make sure that the information we share is relevant to you. So I'm going to do a share.
And I want to add, Margaret,
Sure.
so I can also keep an eye on the Facebook stream. So if anyone is watching right now, and even if questions are a little bit like after the fact, I'll try to check in on those and share them with Margaret and everyone.
That'd be great. And I will send the meeting organizers both of these presentations in PDF form so that you guys can reference those later, and a couple of the relevant handouts that I'll be talking about. So, all right, I'm going to share my screen. And I also forgot to mention, I have 2 children and a dog, so I will be interrupted. It's just the way life works now. I apologize in advance. All right, so the first thing I want to share with you is that the Career Center has a couple new services to be responsive to students' needs during this time. We have drop-in coaching through a Zoom drop-in room. These hours, you can see it's all day. Don't worry, my house is not on fire. That is, I need new batteries. All right, I knew something would happen. That's the first of our interruptions. We'll see what's next. So we have drop-in coaching Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. That means you can literally just pop in. There's a concierge in the Zoom room, and they can take you into a breakout room. And that is our peer advisors who are trained on our whole career library and are ready to have whatever kind of career conversation with you that you want. We also have some service updates in terms of some new services. We have some COVID specific career resources that we want you to know about. This whole page of who's hiring. We have a lot of crowdsourced documents that were started around who's hiring, and these are updated at like every minute by people who are sharing these documents. We have some also recommendations for hot jobs for tech grads. Stuff is constantly being added there because we're taking a lot of time in our day to make sure that we have relevant topics for you. We also have a list of remote work resources here that are useful so that you can dip into if you're someone who's interested in doing remote work. And then we also have, of course, advising hours. Our advising staff is available. You can make appointments on Handshake to meet with any of them. And they are organized by career communities, so they can give you industry specific tips. And then we also have an email resume review service that, let me see, I thought it was used to be on that page, where you can email your resume to through using this form, and you can get feedback on your resume within 48 to 72 hours just by emailing it. That's a new service we're offering because sometimes we know it's easier to just do this and then maybe set up a conversation as a follow-up. So that's a new service that we want to make sure that's available to you. Our virtual appointments are through Zoom, Google Meet, or phone, whatever tool is most comfortable for you. And those, like I said, you can make those on Handshake. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that if you haven't visited the Career Center recently, you should know that we now have a YouTube channel with, I think, up to 8 videos now that are really tactical in terms of resume tips, job search tips. We also have over 50 new handouts on basically every career topic under the sun, ranging from resume design tips, optimizing applicant tracking software, organizing your search, networking, branding, skills, salaries, etc. So this is all here for you to dip into if you do have a career question. We also now have our chat active as well. So if you're not sure which tool, which resource, what the best thing to do or how to access help the best, go ahead and type in your question here and they will either refer you to a person or a service or a handout just so that you know what's available to you through the Career Center. And this COVID page in particular is being updated constantly. So the presentation that I'm going to be giving you guys is actually also in handout form, and those kinds of handouts are being added to this collection as well. It's all kind of in progress. So I'll start with, I'm going to start with 5 ways to use your summer. Feel free to interrupt while we do this. Ask questions. Let me just click on present real quick. And I always have a hard time. Let me just make sure the chat is going to show up for me in here. Okay, great. So I can see the chat. Oh, I love that question about the summary. We'll get to that. I've got a lot of advice about that. All right, so let me move. Can I move that? I don't know what the best, sorry guys, I'm glitching. Okay, so basically this presentation is for those students who know they're going to use their summer, but they're not sure how to build a bridge toward their career. And we have 5 actions you can take to do that. The first one is really take the time in the summer to research careers and to target some upskilling. Really identify the skills that you want to build. How do you research careers? Well, there's one place to start depending on how narrow your interests are. If you're really contemplating a couple different fields, we have an assessment called Career Explorer that you can access on our website that walks you through like a personality test, basically, where you can answer a lot of questions. And what I love about Career Explorer is that it does match you with professions and things like that, but it also identifies an archetype for you, which gets at looking at what your skills are and what your talents are and some of your strengths as well. And that's a free assessment you can take. It's on our website. It's a lot of fun. You can take the assessment and then you can set up a time to meet with an advisor to have a conversation about it. It's a really cool new tool. Another thing you can do is really think about taking time in the summer to upskill. So things have changed overnight in terms of the skills that are necessary in almost every field. So I recommend 2 ways to do this. One way to upskill is to get into job boards, look at internship postings, look at job postings, limit your search to anything that was posted in the last 30 days, and then start to cull knowledge around what keywords and technical skills are required for you. Just keep notes on that. Track that in a spreadsheet or track that some other way, because then you'll start to see, oh, look at all these jobs that want me to know Java or want me to know Asana or want me to know whatever tool it is. In terms of how to upskill, you all as current students have access to LinkedIn Learning, which used to be called lynda.com. And it has changed drastically in terms of there's a 1-hour-long intro to search engine optimization. There's also a 12-hour course on that content. So it's really scalable for you. I love LinkedIn Learning, but there's a lot of other sources for that. A lot of professional organizations are offering training now. There's webinars everywhere, every day on a lot of this stuff. YouTube is really a great destination for a video on like how to learn HTML or whatever it is you're trying to learn. So there's a lot of great options for you. I do want to go to this link really quickly because I think it's a tool that is really incredibly useful. It's a brand new resume optimizer tool. It's totally free. It is created by a data company that scrapes job postings and LinkedIn profiles. So it's getting a lot of up-to-date information. What's so great about it is if you throw your resume in here, and I'm going to have to pull up my I'm going to pull my resume out of here just to show you what this looks like. Should have loaded this one before. And let's get my personal resume. There's not a single advising session I have where we don't actually, where we don't use this, because that's how useful it is. Sorry, I got to switch into my personal account. Getting complicated here. Normally I have this open and ready to go. All right, so I do my resumes in Google Docs, but if you do them in Word, you would just copy and paste from Word. So I'm going to select all in the resume. Copy. All right, let's hide that one. Now I'm going to paste it here. And it'll run its optimizer program, and you'll see it will underline every skill I have in my resume. It will tell me how many skills it has found. Now, what I love about this is I get a sense of where my skills are on my resume, which is really important. But what's really practical is when you throw in a job title, and I'll just throw in, I'm not going to do meat cutter. That's a great one. I'm going to throw in media planner. it really basically looks like an applicant tracking system. It will show me the 10 key skills that match with the role that I've decided I'm interested in. It will tell me other relevant skills, weird or unusual skills, but most importantly, skill opportunities. So if you throw your resume in here, it will tell you what skills are missing on your resume for any role. This is a great way to identify skills that you should put some time into upskilling. So I can't say enough about how great that tool is. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, you can also leverage your summer job. For some of you, you might be doing a retail job. You might, depending on what happens, there might be server roles, there might be camp or childcare roles. You can always leverage your job by taking on projects or duties that are in the skill space that you want to build. Now, it's not like if you're a babysitter, you can say, hey, can I make you guys a family website? That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. But I would say, look at your opportunity to take on some role. Like as a babysitter, you are doing a lot of logistics. You're doing a lot of time management, a lot of project management. So is there, maybe you would recommend, hey, let's build, I know I need knowledge of Asana, one of the project management tools. Maybe, can we use Asana to organize the kids' schedule? I'd like to test that tool as something I would do. So there's a lot of different ways to build skills in your current role. And we do have a handout specifically addressing that. So check that out. Step number 3 for using your summer well is to look into micro internships. And I have a link down here. It's to Parker Dewey. Parker Dewey is a company that employers can post project-based internships on. Some of them last a week, some of them are 3 weeks. Many are paid, although not all are paid. So micro internships are actually becoming more popular. So make sure that you're aware that those are an opportunity for you. But the other way to do this is make your own internship. And that means if you're interested in doing a project, think about a small business that might benefit from your skills. So maybe there's a coffee shop that is doing a ton of curbside pickup. And you're like, I would love to help you build some social media content around this. Or I would love to work on your logo or your brand or a website. Depending on the skills that you want to practice, you can offer your services to a business or to a nonprofit. And in that offer, you can articulate your desire to build those skills, but also the kind of what you can bring to them. So that's another option. The other thing I think is really important right now is that this is a really good time to be doing informational interviews because we're all trapped at home. We want the distraction of talking to someone who's not part of our daily Zoom calls. So I think there's more availability for this than there kind of ever has been. So I would definitely recommend looking on LinkedIn, looking on Alumni Sharing Knowledge, thinking about your family and friend network, and just being open to having a conversation with folks who have just started their careers, folks who are 5 years out, folks who are 10 years out. This is a way to learn more about the skills that are necessary in those fields and also build a network who can connect you with future opportunities. And we do have a handout with a sample informational interview request in it. So there's really no reason not to make that effort. If you do it on LinkedIn, you can even do it as part of a connect request. All right, the 5th way to really use your summer is to think about what are passion projects or volunteer experiences that will build the skills and experience that I need. And I will say every single thing I've talked about, except for the informational interviews, would map onto a resume. It doesn't have to be a formal internship or job to be on your resume. It can be any kind of project, including an academic project or a self-driven project. So as an example here on this presentation, we talk about if you're interested in music journalism, start a blog about it. Start making the thing that you want to make. It could be a creative project. It could be a service project. Maybe there's some kind of outreach you want to do. So for example, I know that there are some groups of young people who are organizing delivery of meals to folks. Then they set up a website, they set up a social media campaign attached to that. So there's a lot of ways to take what you want to do and make it a skill building opportunity. And the thing I'll recommend about this is easier to do as kind of part of a collective. So even if it's a creative project, you might want to have a partner who's interested in building the same skills just to keep yourself accountable, because otherwise it is a little harder to stay accountable. And then finally, just a reminder that we're here for you. We're going to be here for you all summer. And we want to make sure that if you are like, you could come to one of our advising sessions and say, you know I need to take on a project, help me design one. And that would be something that we could help you do in terms of building your skills. Let me just revisit the chat and see if there's any new questions, and then we'll get into some of the job search advice. Okay. Navigating internships when so many are being canceled. There is a website called Is My Internship Canceled? It's a crowdsourced website that a student, I think at University of Arizona started. And students are posting up here whether or not their internships are being canceled or if they're still continuing. So it is a resource for you if you're still internship hunting. Anyone who's hiring or remote, those are good employers. Like I said, we also have that crowdsourced content that we want you to look at. And then in terms of reaching out, if your internship hasn't been canceled, but you're worried that it will be, I think it's always worth the time to reach out and offer, I would love to continue this in a remote capacity, and here's why I'm confident I would be able to do a good job for you. That would be worth it to do. Good question about whether or not remote work is real or a scam. I think Glassdoor is a really good resource for folks who have any kind of question. I think you're very right to be cynical and wary, because you can like go to any Facebook post and see the comment, work for home for free, for this much money. There's a lot of that out there. So go to the employer's website, see what their history is, find them on LinkedIn, see who's interning for them. You can do a lot of good due diligence to make sure that that's a more legitimate business. Let me see if there's anything. So I kind of covered how to use the summer. Summary on a resume, we'll get to that when we talk about job search. I think I have a slide on that. And then we'll talk a little bit about interview in the job search, but feel free to keep adding your questions in the chat. All right, so now I'm going to present the job search presentation, which has some similar content. So I think step one, if you're thinking about doing a job search right now, is inventorying your skills. Really sitting down and mapping what are all the skills I have. And the biggest challenge for DePaul students is really reminding themselves that these skills can be from classes. They can be from any project you've taken, not just a job. Although you obviously have acquired skills if you've had a job, but really sitting down and mapping out, okay, this job, and like I'll talk to a student who, let's say was part of a service organization, and they'll say, yeah, I didn't really do, I didn't do that much except for this one fundraiser. And I'll say, well, what did that involve? And often it was like, well, I contacted vendors, I promoted the event on this social media place. And there's a lot of skills they acquired through that. So if you're one of those people who doubts your ability to label your own skills, that's what we do. Like I'm like a ghost whisperer when it comes to talking to students about their skills. So that's something I want to make sure that you're not on your own. We can help you do that. And then get into the job market. If this is a job search, you're going to be on Indeed, you're going to be on LinkedIn, you're going to be on Handshake, and you are going to limit your search to jobs that were posted in the last 30 days or so. And you are going to approach this like a research project and look at where's demand. What are the jobs that are getting posted right now? And then that I'm interested in, because this is like, basically, this is the integration of who you are in what the world needs. And I know every time I talk about this, I'm like, this is the history of the job market forever. I mean, I have an MFA in sculpture. Did I think I would get a job as a sculptor? Absolutely not. I knew I had a set of skills, and I went into the market and I said, who wants to pay me to do something? And I looked for something I liked. This isn't settling. This is really looking for an intersection between what the market needs and what you have and what you are interested in doing. So looking into what are the in-demand skills, what are the employers who are hiring now? So for example, a lot of tech companies are hiring. They're not just hiring tech roles, they're hiring all kinds of roles. Community colleges are going to be blowing up in the fall. There's going to be some so parts of the market are shrinking and parts of the market are going to grow. And that'll change daily as this kind of unravels or changes. So tracking those skills, but then be aware that, okay, so you're like, oh, this intersection would be great. I like the idea of a role that does this, but I don't know this technology, or I don't know this skill. That's where now you know what to upskill on. And you can upskill on this stuff pretty quickly. There's a lot, like I said, LinkedIn Learning, there's a lot of places to go to add those skills. So you're seeing where you fit, you're upskilling to meet demand. This is similar content to the previous presentation. It's not a huge time commitment, and you are not going to present yourself as an expert on anything. All I need you to do is get that name of technology on your resume to make it through that applicant tracking system. And then in that interview, you're going to be able to talk about your ability to learn things quickly. So really, it's all about getting through that resume review and making sure your resume gets you that interview, because that's what I want to make sure you can do. And a lot of that, resumes are scanned for skills. So some of that is knowledge around what skills you need to build, and then how to represent them. After that, you really need to revise your documents and make sure that they match the new information you have. And that's where I point folks to the MC Resume Optimizer tool, because that's a great way to triple check to make sure it's doing what it needs to do. Same thing for LinkedIn and your cover letter. You want to make sure that they match. And with the cover letter, sometimes it's a pivot. So sometimes you were headed towards a specific thing and you're like, oh, now I'm headed in this slightly different direction. So sometimes you often talk about yourself as a hybrid in a pivot, and we have a whole bunch of content specific to pivoting on our website as well. Then you're going to build a network in the new field, if the field is indeed new to you. That's something that we talked about when we talked about informational interviewing. Think about how to do it. It might feel awkward to network during the pandemic, but we're all going through this together. That's why I think the networking we're doing is even more human than it was before, even though it's through a computer, because we're sharing this experience and we're all in a different kind of position, but this is a place where I feel like community can be built. And then we talked about this. This is kind of redundant with the other handout. And then this is my favorite bit of advice: build a community to fuel your search. This is kind of like what I was talking about when I was talking about taking on personal projects. If you are in a job search mode, get some kind of a job search accountability group set up. So I meet with 2 alumni who are both in job search, and I meet with them and then they meet with each other just to have an accountability conversation once a week. What did you apply to? What were you planning on doing here? What were you planning on doing here? And it's not like they're experts on job search. They don't need to be. They're just an accountability group, and they have some level of community. Connect to the peers who are in the same boat as you, because they can help you stay accountable, but also fuel that search by getting excited. So maybe as you start to uncover intersections of demand and your interest, start to dig into those by watching TEDx videos, or like staying on top of trends, or curating some content, even a Spotify list, that makes this more of a process and less of a task. It's kind of like a practice more than anything. And then the other piece of advice, I don't want this to take all of your time. Like, this search and everything we've been talking about feels very overwhelming and intimidating in terms of time, but there's a way to organize this that's going to make your life easier. I strongly recommend having a single spreadsheet with all of the tabs here on the left: a jobs tab, a skill training opportunities tab, a webinars tab. Like, you're not going to go to every webinar you see. Why not just track it? Some networking targets you've identified. You're not going to reach them up to all of them at once. Some professional orgs that you've identified, some articles that you come upon, and then just other resources, because you're going to find a lot of resources out there, because every career center, every think tank, every professional association is building a ton of content to be responsive to our stakeholders' needs. We also have this handout that's kind of under here about the organizing your job search, with very specific advice about the jobs tab in particular, and how to make it so that you're only writing 2 or 3 or 4 the most different cover letters, not 100 different ones. Like, of course you're going to tailor, but you're going to tailor according to like a larger bucket of category or section of what you're doing. I love it when it glitches. Okay. Again, a reminder, we're here for you. We're ready to give you advice. And I realize now I don't have the summary in here. So let me show you quickly. One is a pro tip for once you've navigated the applicant tracking system and someone's looking at your resume. Do you guys want to guess in the chat how many seconds an average resume is looked at? Guess in a chat. Let's see. Oh, you guys are good. You're nice and cynical. I like it. I just did this with a group of alumni and they're like 30. I was like 6 seconds. Let me see if this is, I started this handout. It's not done yet. Is this one blank? Okay, I'm gonna grab it from a different spot here. You can see how messy my tabs are. You know what? I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna lean in on this. I'm messy. It's because I'm working so much. Okay, so wrong one.
Especially with everything being remote right now, it's all on the computer.
And I have to maintain, like I have a Firefox browser open for one son's Google Classroom and a Safari browser open for another son's Google Classroom because we can't all be logged in because it's all about like, it's because they're technically like Gmail accounts. So I can't have like 5 different Gmail accounts open. E-learning, it's fun. So 6 seconds is the average amount of time someone spends reading a resume. If you write a summary at the top of your resume under your name, you're telling that HR screener why they should read your cover letter without them even looking at the rest of your resume. So these are some samples. So I'll just read a couple. Cinematographer, videographer, storyboard artist, producer, and editor with experience in feature film, documentary filmmaking, political media, and commercial advertising. I'm getting my skills and experience at the top. I'm not telling you where I did them. I'm not telling you how I did them until you dig into the resume. Another different example, mental health professional passionate about impacting the lives of culturally diverse communities via compassion and a commitment to high impact professional development. This is also where you can start to build brand around what's distinctive about you. There's a lot of diversity recruitment. There's a typo right here. There's a lot of diversity recruitment that we don't think about, and that you're the one who has to kind of label yourself in a particular way for an employer to understand that you might be part of their goal or a diversity initiative. That includes neurodiversity, that includes cultural identity, that includes gender identity. It varies. So you could even say, like, maybe you're a mental health professional passionate about, like here, I'm signaling with culturally diverse communities, but you could signal in there differently as well. I also recommend to people who are graduating, you can say emerging art director, designer, you can say emerging, whatever that is. And this example is fun because this is cute because it's more of a media role, so you can, depending on your industry, you can kind of tailor it a little bit more to that industry as well. But you get a lot of your skills up here. And this is very similar to the way we talk about the brand statement in the cover letter, which makes a really strong thesis statement / claim about who you are. I love to use a summary. I don't do more than 2 lines, and it replaces an objective because we don't need objectives anymore. We know why we're looking at a document. It's not in an envelope and I'm not opening it at my desk. So that's definitely something you could add on to. All right, I'm gonna stop share. I might reshare again if there's more questions that I have specific resources on. What other questions do you guys have as far as resumes, job search? I've been told I need to sit in silence more, so that's what I'm practicing right now, and it is not easy. Are there any Facebook questions?
I didn't see any come through,
Okay.
but I guess I have a question. This is more at the graduate level, but as hiring spaces have like institutions or job, companies, they have like job freezes. Are there any recommendations for when like we are looking for a job and there's a freeze? Are there any things that we should do, follow up, or should we keep looking? Any recommendations there?
It varies based on industry for sure. But I think a lot of this is research, right? And in terms of like, so for example, if you're interested in higher ed roles, I get I have a job search agent, meaning I've signed up for an email from the number one higher ed job search board, which is Higher Ed Jobs. So I'm not looking for a job, but if I were, I get an email every time somebody posts on that page that meets my requirements. So that keeps me a little bit updated. But the other thing is think about the logic of the market. Like if you think about who's going to have funding, government is always going to pay for itself, right?
Mhm.
I'm saying community colleges are going to blow up because if we're virtual in fall, or if other institutions are virtual in fall, it's going to make a lot of sense for people to pay a lot less for, freshmen attending college. So there's a logic there. But what's interesting about that is when you think through the market and the economics of it, community colleges won't know this until July. So the hiring freeze, like it used to be that a lot of industries had a very specific hiring cycle, like in higher ed. Budgets were approved in December, boards approved them in January. We posted all of our jobs in like March and April, and we hired for fall. Like that's every year, same thing. There were odds and ends that would pop up. But now if you're someone interested in higher ed as an industry, we won't know our enrollment until July. So
Right.
we won't know anything. So if you think through the back end of the industry, that'll give you some ideas about what the timing might be. But it's a great question for informational interviews too.
Right. For anyone else on the call, are there any areas that you are looking for, like work or your career that you're working on that you have questions about? And I think there's a question that came through as well.
I can say one thing we're adding to our blog. If you're not already subscribed to our blog, you should be, because what we're adding, every career community is posting a blog post about opportunities that are emerging in their communities. So what we want to do is be ready for graduating seniors and say like, okay, we know that, let's say in finance, we're not hiring a ton. Here's what else you could do. So basically we're creating a lot of these blog posts associated with here's what markets are open right, or here's where demand is in this community right now, so that everyone can kind of get a sense of that. And there will be a lot of jobs, like thousands of jobs doing contact tracing relatively soon. And that's for, I think anyone with a liberal arts education would be competitive for that, because it really is about communication skills, and it's about project management and things like that. So I would keep that in mind. And I do see a request to send confirmation of attendance. Can you guys do that? Thank you. I will forget. That's why I'm saying, because I will forget, and I don't want you to get in trouble. Any other questions, or please come meet with us. We're really bored. No one's using the Career Center right now. We're very lonely. We have some appointments, but a lot of folks I think are waiting to figure out what's happening. So but if you just want to have a conversation, you don't have to come in with a resume. You can come in and just say, tell me what I should be doing right now. And some of us are very bossy like me. And then some of us are less bossy. And I call myself the dad of the Career Center. There's a lot of moms in the Career Center. Not to be gender normative.
I had a quick question.
Yeah.
What do you think like the best thing students should be doing right now? Like, should they be researching companies for future internships, or do you think there's still a lot of internships available, or like remote internships?
That's kind of a yes and. Okay. I would say still look, because depending on the industry and the function, I'm seeing internships get posted every day. But I would also say open your mind to a micro internship, because that's employers. It's a lot easier for an employer to pull the trigger on that, because no one knows when they're going to open right now. But I do think that it's to your advantage to be in the job boards all the time, just to see how things are evolving. Don't make this a full-time job. That'll make you crazy. That's why I feel like if you make this part of a community, if you're part of a community that's doing this, then you're sharing some of that workload. But I would say yes and, for sure. Like there are definitely going to be internships posted now. There's going to be internships. I mean, you could even see some posted in June for a part of the summer, because employers will be responsive to a shift in demand. But don't make it a full-time job. and don't make it a reflection of who you are if you're applying and you're not getting a ton of responses. It's a numbers game, and it really is about shifting needs. The other thing is employers are not good at taking postings off. So if I see it's been posted 30 days ago, I'm like, maybe it's a thing, maybe it's not. And on Handshake in particular, the dates are expiration dates, not deadlines. It looks like a deadline, kind of. The only time it is a deadline is if it says it in the text, deadline for applications is this date. Otherwise, that's just a date that they had to enter to make it expire. So I typically don't use that as a date that I would use to prioritize. I use posting date more than anything.
That note on the community, I think, is important. I'm not in my official job search. I still have another year of my program, but I have friends that are a year above, and they're preparing to graduate and look for jobs. And knowing that there's hiring freezes and things like that, they've actually referred to for other friends that have found a full-time job and have found like that availability or transition in this remote time. So referring to friends in that community space of like what jobs have been able to transition and have been able to continue on, and then you can kind of get a gauge for what that experience will be like. That's the other thing too, is even if a job has transitioned online, like that experience might be different. And so finding someone to speak to that would be, I think, helpful in your search. Yeah, just a note that I recently had.
And spoiler alert, we're getting career community LinkedIn groups soon. You'll see a message about that. So that'll be a good place for you all to like be active as a community without having to be in Handshake or anything. And hopefully you're all already on LinkedIn. We wanted to bring some of that community to a space you're already at, and a space where employers can be as well as faculty. So you'll be getting that invite within the next 2 weeks. So we're really excited about that.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any further questions for our speaker, Margaret from the Career Center?
All right, I will send you guys the materials I referenced. And yeah, feel free to connect if you have any questions, and have a good afternoon. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course,
Awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate the
bye.
partnership with you today.
And to all of our Facebook viewers, if you have any questions along the way, please make sure to leave those in the comment section of the Facebook Live. And then if you would like the information that we had today, we can also share that with you via email. So thanks, everyone.